Hey everyone, it's Rob Foglia and Jessica Klein with Foglia Properties at Keller Williams Realty here in Nashville. And we just wanted to come to you live today and go over 3 reasons of how a great real estate agent can help make you thousands more on the sale of your home. I think in a market like we're in, it's such an extremely strong seller's market. It's easy to think, oh, well, all results are going to be the same. I'm going to get a great price for my home. And we just wanted to show you a couple of quick examples on why it matters. So are you ready to get started, Jessica?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be great because, we all know, like you said, it's easy to sell a house in this market. And when it comes down to it, it's not so easy to get every last dime that you can out of it. And that's exactly what we do every day. We study and we learn and we practice, and it's all so that we can get you the most in every transaction. So we have 3 really good examples today, right?
Yeah.
And some stats and interesting things to look at. So where should we start?
Well, let's start here and right here, and it almost might even become 4 examples, but let's just go through this one real quick. So what we're looking at here are just some residential property statistics for Davidson County, so Nashville's county. Over the last 3 months, homes that have closed listed at $500,000 and below. And the reason why we wanted to share this is that not every result's going to be the same. If they were in this market, everything would be, just to show you what we mean, middle 2 rows here are average and median, everything would be around 100, 101%. But you can see at some point, somebody got 73% or 72.5% of what they were asking for the home. Somebody got 134%. While those 2 results are kind of extreme, the reality is not all results are going to be the same. And in fact, if we can, let's share one example of a home recently that I'll just go ahead and say it. Kelly and I were the buyers of the property. It was an investment property that we were buying. And, I'll just leave it at that. I won't give the address or anything, but long story short, the home, it appraised, we paid asking price for it, right, Jessica, if I'm remembering correctly? I should know this now.
You offered asking price.
Yes, thank you, offered. So we offered asking price. We were under contract at their asking price.
Yes.
That's how I wanted to say it. And when the appraisal was done, the appraisal actually came in 10 grand lower than their asking price. Now, I'll just be as transparent as I can be with y'all, that Kelly and I, we thought the home was worth the asking price. We thought, hey, based on the updates in the home, it had a new everything. It was like, as a rental property, we loved it. It was going to cash flow at their asking price. We would have paid that. But we thought, you know what? I've learned over the years that if you don't ask, you don't get, right? And so we said, we went to those sellers and said, hey, the appraisal came in 10 grand low. Will you come down to this price? And Jessica, what happened?
They said, okay. And they signed it and they sent it back.
They signed it and sent it back. Exactly. And so we got $10,000 off the price of the home, basically because we asked. And that's not a shot at their agent. Their agent was super nice to work with. And that's why I'm not giving the address so nobody knows who we're talking about. It's just the reality was we got that price at a home at a discounted price because of the representation. I'm just going to say it. And I don't mean that as a shot at anybody. Again, great agent. It's just that the reality was she cost her clients some money. And that's why having the right agent matters, and having somebody who's going to negotiate for you matters. That doesn't mean that we're going to be able to, every time we work with somebody, we're going to get 30% above asking or anything like that. But we find the ways in there to help you make as much money as possible. We fight for your equity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and this is such a good example of knowing the parts of the contract that aren't written on the paper, if that makes any sense. In the contract, there is language about appraisals, and it's, for anyone who doesn't know, the contract is pretty boilerplate, and then there are a few areas where you can fill things in. Now, if we were on the listing side in this transaction, we would have made sure, and we have for many of our clients, that there was additional language that we put at the bottom of the contract that says, if the appraisal comes in low, then the buyer's willing to pay the difference. And so, we've made our clients thousands of dollars in exactly that way. So that's one way that she could have protected her client there. And then the other way, like you said, is just countering back and saying, well, are you willing to make up that difference? And you've already admitted as the buyer, yes, you would have.
We would have, or at the very least, I would have been happy splitting
Part
the
of it.
difference. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
And so, that's well said, Jessica. Absolutely. That actually takes us to our second example that we had here, and that is our contract. I mean, you can see it's a 10-page document. This is put together by our Tennessee Association of Realtors. that basically is the purchase and sale agreement that every buyer and every seller we use when we're writing our offers and accepting offers. And I just went through it real quickly to say, hey, there's 10 pages worth of details on here, and knowing all the details matters. We'll give an example. We won't give the address because I don't want to, but I mean, we sold a home in Smyrna a couple of years ago where and here I'll just go to the inspection portion of the contract. But basically, long story short, this whole inspection portion of the contract basically says that within whatever has been agreed to, like say it's 10 days, within 10 days of the agreement becoming official, the buyers have the right to do any and all inspections they want to do. And then they can either accept the home as is, they can back out citing the inspection, really almost for any reason. They can back out as long as this happens before 11:59 p.m. on day 10. They can back out, or they can give us a recommended, not recommended, excuse me, a proposed list of repairs. But one of those three things has to happen. And if nothing happens before the end of that period, so again, say 10 days here, if nothing happens before the end of that 10-day period, well, that just means the buyer's accepting the home in as is condition. Right. But we have this example that we were thinking about earlier. This home, we were representing the sellers, and the buyers, they went to day 11. They went to the day after their inspection period ended and tried to get out of the contract, right? And
right, yeah. So they did their inspections, and the inspection period ended. So they no longer have the right to request repairs. Mm-hmm. And what did they do? They came back to us and said, well, we weren't happy with it and we want out.
Exactly. And because they did that, because they missed their deadline, that buyer ended up having to lose out on their earnest money. Now,
which was $1,000 in this case, and for the price of the home, that's a pretty substantial earnest money deposit.
It was because the home I think sold for like $220 something, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
and it was either $1,000 or $2,000, and either way, I mean that was money that went to the sellers. We're in a typical contract here, unless there's some sort of language written differently. But the way it normally goes is the buyer, once they do their inspection, as long as they terminate before the end of this period, they're getting their earnest money back. It's pretty cut and dry. And honestly, the buyers are very protected. Like a buyer could go and say, it's like sadly I've had on some of my listings. One of my very first listings I'm thinking of right now, the buyer terminated because the carpet was dirtier than they anticipated, and little cosmetic things. Sadly, a buyer can back out for those reasons. Those buyers, they absolutely could have backed out legally, gotten their earnest money back, but that agent cost them $1,000 or $2,000 because they didn't know the contract.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. As much as we've been talking about the buyer in this scenario, it is completely the agent's responsibility to understand the restrictions of this contract and to give their client good advice based on it. And especially in this type of a scenario, I mean, anytime we go under contract on something, we have a bulleted list of these are the deadlines, and it's very clear to everyone. And so it's very important to make sure that your agent understands what's happening, and they've proven that they're qualified to help you in these decisions and navigate this contract.
Exactly. Jessica, that leads us to one last example that we'll share. Before we do, let me just ask a quick question. What type of market are we in?
Seller's market.
The seller's market, yeah, very strong seller's market. And so what that ends up doing is, if you're a seller who's also buying, it becomes a little bit of a challenge sometimes. And in fact, I talked to somebody earlier today. Again, I won't give a name. And yet this person, he was his home had just been on the market. They had even had it under contract to sell to a buyer. He said they had it under contract twice. And unfortunately, he wasn't moving. And he was so discouraged through the process because he couldn't find another home to buy. And one of the reasons for that was because he had what's called a home sale contingency in his offer, because he couldn't get approved for his new mortgage without selling his current home, which a lot of people can't. And so the reality is, a good agent is going to give you, and this comes back to the whole helping you make money, and they're going to give you options. And so this is an option we can actually offer every single one of our clients, and this is called the Knock Home Swap program. And we could go into all the details of the world on this, but in a long story short, the guy who I'm thinking of, and again, I won't give his name, but the guy I'm thinking of, he could have bought his new property because he said they had found multiple homes they wanted to buy. we could have written that offer without that sale of home condition. So that makes his offer more attractive to the sellers of the home he wants to buy. And then we could have sold his current home. So we could have gone in that order instead of him having to sell first. We could have done that through this home swap program. And sadly, a lot of lenders don't realize this program exists. And so, excuse me, not lenders, a lot of real estate agents don't know that this program exists. And so, anyway, it just, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, not only do a lot of agents not know that it exists, it takes an additional step to get not licensed, to be registered and be qualified to provide this program. And we've done that because it makes such a big difference for our clients, and it doesn't cost them any more money. And this is just one of those great examples of how we provide solutions to people to save them money or make the process easier or protect them, or any number of things. And this is just, we take a lot of pride in being able to offer this type of solution to our clients, because we know it's not the easiest process, buying and selling homes. And if we can make it as easy as possible, then and put people up, have them come out ahead at the end, that's everything to us. Like that's why we're in this business.
I was on a group call with one of my mentors in real estate earlier today, and he was talking about how our market is changing right before our eyes, and like how it's shifting, and it is in a major way. Like, aside from the fact that it's a strong seller's market, there are new things like the knock home swap program that agents like us, like, we can offer. Whereas, sadly, there are some people who are still doing business the way they were doing it 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. Again, we're not trying to talk down about anybody in our industry. We just want our friends that are on Facebook here with us, as well as anybody who's getting this in their inbox, people that we're connected with, to know that there is a difference in the quality of real estate agent you're going to get. And make sure you're working with the person who's going to fulfill your needs as best as you need them, not just as best as they can do, but as you need them. So if you need an option like a home swap program, if you want a strong negotiator, if you want somebody who knows the details, knows the contracts, we're here for you, and so we want you to know that.
Took the words out of my mouth.
So we can probably cut it off there. I mean, unless you wanted to, we can double check. I don't know if we have any questions on Facebook Live before we cut it off, but if we do, I'm always happy to answer those live. Otherwise, we can cut it off until next week.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any now, but like Rob said, just put them down below if you have them, or if you're getting this in an email, just go ahead and reply, and we will get back to you as soon as we can.
Awesome. Well, appreciate y'all checking this out, and until next time, see y'all.
Thank you.